Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. I just wanted to do a quick video on a topic that I've been trying to get out through my social media lately, and that is, what tips I would give to myself when I started to take gaming seriously. It was a couple of years ago, like 5 or 6 years ago now, that I've been pro player. There are definitely some things that I wish I had knew before that, and there were really no other options than go and try, fail and fix it and realize what went wrong. Let's treat this as a guide or guideline rather to those aspiring or younger players, no matter what game you play, really. But I think this is going to be helpful for many of you, and even some semi-pro or even pro players. There are some definitely takeaways that you can take when I explain it further down the line. First of all, I think the age of esports when I became professional player for the first time was very different to the age we have right now. It was like 5 or 6 years ago when I signed my first contract, and ever since I've been assigned to some organization in some shape or form. And I don't want to sound like old grumpy granddad or anything, but the fast growth of the environment only underlines the fact that things change quick, and they are changing quick. I do not consider myself, OG or one of the first professionals. When I was a teenager, it was very rare and almost non-existent that you were growing up thinking, damn, I want to be a professional gamer one time, I want to make money out of it. There were, only a very small amount of players making money out of gaming, and oftentimes it was even below average of the wage in many countries, Slovakia included. That's where I grew up, so therefore it was not very viable career path back in the day. Surely you could, treat it as a hobby, but your focus was almost always somewhere else. Whether it was school or business or, I don't know, family, whatever. It was definitely not gaming, and it wasn't happening as often as probably you could see now in this time and age. Now you have different kinds of ways to break through. Streaming became very mainstream. Content creation, it's way more accessible than it was before. Social media grew a ton. You have all different social media platforms that are really easy to reach your audience. You have Faceit, you have FPLC, big money in leagues like FPL, academy teams, university teams, all sorts of gaming classes, esports seminars and whatsoever. Probably hundreds of other things that I am forgetting right now, but you get the point. It's way easier right now because the options and the opportunities for you to break through are incomparable to what it was a few years ago. So that's a huge advantage of people who are trying to become pro players or influencers, whatever, right now in this time and age. Whenever I stream live on Twitch or I do any kind of AMA on any of my social media platforms, I get this question a lot, and that is, can you give me a tip how to become a pro gamer? Well, honestly, there is no other secret other than grinding and learning about the game and its concepts and watching from the best players in the world. But tips I can give are these, and these will make your career longer, better, more stress-free, and will put you in a position to make the most out of your gaming journey. And there's going to be 2 extra up on my blog, which is going to be down in the description below if you're interested. It's just really to get those, extra values out of these videos right there in the written form as well, in case you want to check it out. It's going to be down in the description. I tried to pick up tips that were as relevant then in 2015 when I was about to sign my very first contract in Hellraisers as they are now in this advanced age of gaming. So let's get into the list, yeah? So first tip is definitely one of the most important ones, and that is to keep it up with social media presence. And I cannot stress this enough. I could probably make a whole video on this, and at some point I probably will, but building your brand through social media is one of the easiest things you can do as a professional gamer, because there is a very easy target audience that are your fans, essentially. Just be active on social media because you are on them probably most of the time anyway when you're not gaming. It's just very rare that you're probably next Simple or Nico or any other player that is going to get picked up solo because you are god at the game. This is probably not going to happen, and you have to boost your chances to get into the proper team through, you know, being vocal, being active on social media, express yourself, I guess, get connected with the fans as well. This is not only going to build your fan base, but also maintain it to the point where orgs will see you as more lucrative value or asset to their team over some other players, because, you know, it's business for them. But as I said, this is a topic that I can go really deep into in probably a standalone video. So I'm just gonna keep it there, that social media presence is something that I definitely want to do as soon as I started being professional gamer, because I made Twitter pretty much as I became professional gamer, but I was streaming very few hours, and I wish I could take that back and I would stream more. Same with this content creation. I'm starting to do this right now, which is, I think, way too late, but I guess better late than never. I kind of slept through the phase of Instagram where it was kind of popular and started to boom, but I wasn't even on it. Yeah, I'm trying to make up for it right now. So definitely one thing that I would love you to start doing as you are becoming just a semi-pro or aspiring pro player. Tip number 2 is to be nice to others. You really don't want to burn bridges for no reason, and especially do not get into the pointless arguments with people who are just better. Alright, do not get into the pointless arguments with the people that are just straight up better at arguing than you. And it is completely okay. You may be right in your argument, but the way they word it, and especially if it's happening over social media platform, it's public, right? Everyone sees the interaction, the argument, the heat between the people. If you are not really good at arguing, which is pretty oftentimes the problem with the players, where they are not really comfortable in, you know, arguing in English because it's not their native language or whatever, they look like a fool. It can burn the bridges essentially to the point where that person that you just argued with might be in some point of the future your teammate, employer, whatever. You might cross each other's paths again, and you really don't want to be this stupid childish mistake of arguing over Twitter or whatever, to be the reason that you cannot collaborate together. Esports and gaming and CSGO space is not that huge as people think. Like, there's hundreds, thousands of people that are interacting within each other, and there's very few people coming in and very few people coming out, so it's just one huge bubble of same people. So just keep it neat in the bubble, right? What's the point of being negative here? Essentially, just don't provoke people who write for living like journalists. I cannot stress this enough. Arguing with a journalist over Twitter, childish mistake in my opinion. Even if it looks great, you want to stand for your own opinion, great, do it. Probably just do it through, I don't know, DMs or whatever. Just don't do it publicly. You're gonna get humiliated. That's the reason why they are not messaging you to 1v1 you on the AMAP, because you're the pro player. They are terrible at games. Just don't do it, right? Tip number 3 is to look for the experience, and I'm gonna divide this to sub-tips. First one being to actively look for active experience, and this is something that I just completely made up right now on the spot, but active experience I count it as, you know, attend events as a player whenever you can, even if it's just a local small tournament, just go there. The adrenaline rush before big game on stage or against players you visibly see in front of you is always there, no matter how often you experience it. So getting ready for these feelings and experiencing it as much as possible, even early in your career, it will help you in the long run. This is something that I've struggled before. I think I was attending a lot of LANs when I was younger, or, you know, the local events, but I definitely could have done a little bit more, but I had to kind of balance school here and there, so it was kind of hard. But definitely there were options where I could have gone, but I didn't go because I was maybe too lazy. I wish I went right now. So don't do the same mistake and cherish those experiences that you can. Even visiting with a friend, that's enough. I mean, that's really important. So the second part of this tip is to look actively for passive experience, which is, you know, search what other pros make as an educational content, and if they do, learn from them. So even by you watching this video, this is great. You're already doing this passive experience kind of thing. If they're streaming, go visit their stream and see what they are doing. Try to live, breathe, and try to get as much experience out of your free time about the game as you possibly can. Obviously, don't overdo it. We do it when you only feel like it. You don't have to watch every single minute or second of simple stream, and if you miss it, you're gonna go back and re-watch it. If you really feel like you want to learn something, but you're kind of getting overplayed, or you're spending a lot of hours in Counter-Strike and you don't really feel like playing it, just chill back, head to the YouTube and watch some other YouTubers or streamers how they are playing, and try to learn from them as well. Maybe you will see one of the tricks that they use that you can bring up to your game and elevate your play, something that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise, right? So this is kind of passive experience when you're just watching and trying to absorb what you see on the screen, even if you're not necessarily playing the Counter-Strike. Let's move to the number 4, which is mental fortitude. Improving mental fortitude is something that I've been ignoring for basically half of my career right now. So it's like 3 years that I haven't been doing anything about it. But then I started, and it really helped me. It helped me in my personal level. I feel more confident on the server, even when being outplayed by much better players. I still feel like I have edge over them in some areas. And this is mainly thanks to the mental fortitude. And what I mean by this is that you can improve your mental abilities through, mindfulness, hitting a gym, or having a good sleep hygiene, breathing exercises, meditating, whatever, like you name it. These things will help you. It's going to be very tough to get used to it. You are probably really hardcore gamer. If you want to make it to the pro level, you will feel like, well, 10 minutes of that match equals more than 10 minutes of being a little bit mindful about whatever you are about to do and doing some breathing techniques or whatever. But those are truly career-changing habits that you want to have, because it's gonna first prolong your career, because you're going to be more protected, and also you're going to be protected by toxicity of the community, because it is bound to happen to everyone that you're gonna have slumps, and there's going to be a lot of hate coming through social media to you, and you have to be able to deflect them, because even if you try to avoid them completely, some will get through and it can really ruin you. And I know a couple of players that basically ended their careers because they weren't really able to recover from multiple things, and one of it was hate towards them, because fans are ruthless, especially when you bet on games. It's tough if you lose some money. Tip number 5 is stretch your hands and proper sitting. So I'm trying to do it right now as I speak to the camera. I'm trying to do it whenever I game. Proper sitting is something that I've been working on because of my back injury since I was a teenager. When I was playing tennis, I really am careful how I am sitting. It may look dumb for some because people like to be slouching at their PC and be comfortable as possible. This is how I find my comfort. This is how I'm comfortable. I have specific straight sitting, which is very good, but it's very rare at the same time. So try to bring your habits through the sitting as well. And for stretching your hands, I will just include the link down in the description below from Dr. Levi. He's a very famous YouTuber or doctor that makes YouTube videos rather. I got some tips from him, and I know some other players are doing his exercises as well. So check them out, and shout out to him for doing great work. Tip number 6 is a really quick one. It's something that I randomly did. I didn't know it's going to have such a big impact, and that is to create a schedule where you can track your long-term, short-term goals, events, regime, tasks, habits, whatever, schedule. Ever since I've played for a professional team, I've had a schedule, team schedule in Google Docs. We've kept updating it, just so we know when the tournaments are happening, when we have a practice, what kind of practice we're going to have. And I have it all saved in my computer, and it's really good to revisit it later. I've even checked some of my, schedules back to 2017. Like a few weeks ago, I actually checked them, how it was actually, how many games per day we were playing compared to what we're doing now. And I saw some patterns there that were helping in building long-term schedule for my new team in Apex. I'm really glad I've saved them, because it really shows that things are developing, and back then you were playing pretty much 6 or 7 scrims per day, whereas now it's more likely to have like 4 or 5. So the quantity of the scrims went down while the quality of the actual scrims went up, because every round matters now, and people are trying to squeeze every possible knowledge out of those scrims through every round. So back in the day, it was pretty common that people were just buying deagles and trying to go for picks and individually win the rounds. Whereas now you have basically strats for force buys that are way more, you know, gimmicky, and they can win you a round or even game itself, so they want to practice it in scrim as well. So this is something I've noticed just looking at it a couple of days ago, and I think it's really interesting. And you should be saving those as much as possible. It looks pointless at first, I guess, but further down the line, you know, a couple of years later, you can revisit it and actually learn from it. So number 7 is going to be divided to 2-parter as well. So let's start with the first part, and that is, if you're known within the scene, get agency on which you did a little background check. You know, you can ask other people around, ask other players around, watch the players who signed with the agency, what they're doing. If they're, you know, having some negative thoughts about it, you can just straight up ask them. Agency is something that really changed my professional career. If you're aspiring pro player, you're not really ready for agency just yet, because it's going to be tough finding the correct one to represent you because you're not really known yet. So let's move to the second part, which is if you're not known and it's hard for you to work with an agency, try to get any legal help with your first few contracts when within gaming. I burned myself a couple of times, like 2 or 3 times, signing a contract that was basically prison. I'm not gonna mention who I did it with, but I did mistakes. Mistakes were made. This is kind of a taboo thing, which I don't really like, and I would love to share more insights on these contract talks because it's really important, and especially for younger players, because when you're breaking through to the pro scene right now, it's, you know, you're 16, 17, 18 years old, maybe sometimes even 15 or whatever. So you really have no idea what you're doing. This signature is so powerful that you have to really get a lawyer and get the advice here. Because organizations are oftentimes trying to lowball you if you're young and inexperienced. These players, they don't know any better. They're about to make first money through gaming, and they're all up for it, even if it makes complete nonsense. What you can do is as well, I'm a part of CSPPA, which is what's the shortcut, man? Counter-Strike. I am going to refer to CSPPA guidelines as well, because we've done some, and as you know, I'm part of the CSPPA, which is Counter-Strike Pro Player Association. We've created guidelines for players exactly with this issue, that they don't really know what to expect from the contract and how to navigate through all that mess of you know, words and papers. So I'm going to include a link again down in the description below, where you can see the thread from Twitter, where we actually broke it down, and it's a pretty cool read. I learned something myself. What is norm, what it really isn't, what you should sign, what you shouldn't. If you have any troubles and you're about to sign your first contract, or any contract really within gaming, feel free to turn to CSPPA, message us either through Twitter. We're going to be there to help you, and this is what we do. We're trying to make the landscape better. Unlike some people are trying to, you know, make us evil or whatever. We're really here to help you. Even if you're young, if you're unknown, whatever, just message us and we're gonna fix it. Sadly, most of the time your employer doesn't really care about you, and they will pay you just enough to keep you around, and not really anything more. You have to be reasonably selfish when it comes to how you make your living. This is going to be your main source of income, and you have to know what you're signing and what you have to do to earn that salary. Number 8 is to not take stuff for granted. Whether it's hardworking teammates, loyal orgs, fair contracts, sportive fans, they sadly come and go. All these things I mentioned should be the norm in esports, but it is exact opposite. You have to be ready that these aspects will enter and leave your career at random points, and when all seem good, you are on the right path to become the great winner. But seemingly in a snap of a finger, things can go really opposite direction, and when all things mentioned above are on the downhill, you will realize how actually strong you are as a player, or as a human being, or a competitor itself. Either you withstand it and come back, or you will fail to climb up, like many other players that just crumbled during those lowest points in their career and they never came back. I know a couple of them. It was very brutal, I guess, and unfair, but life isn't fair, and you have to be ready that at some point when everything is smooth, you have to be ready that at one point everything will turn to shit, and you have to be just ready to withstand it, and you have to use all your resources to come back up, and that is only going to make you legit. Number 9, and that is okay to take breaks. and you don't have to invest your life into CS or whatever game you want to play 24/7. It's completely okay to play another game to chill or book a trip somewhere to refresh your mind. This is why in past years there are things such as tournament breaks twice per year, one in summer, one in winter. I try to personally use those as good as I can by spending virtually no time at the PC. You are in it for the long run, and avoiding burnout will be crucial at some point in your career. Every pro player that I know and that is a little bit older and experienced, they in some shape or form experienced burnout, myself included, and you have to really be ready to battle it, and that is just by taking breaks, culminatively avoid it by not spending time at the PC or in game when you really don't have to. It is pretty easy to commit all your time to a game when you are, young and you don't have any responsibilities. You live with your parents and they fix everything when you need it. As you get older, independent and self-sustainable, it will become harder to keep up with the real life stuff as well, and suddenly you will feel like you could be a better player if you hadn't had to deal with all the adult things by yourself. You have to trust me here. If I would be playing 12 hours per day just like I used to when I was younger, I would burn out in no time, and it's not easy to deal when it occurs. So when burnout occurs, it's really hard to deal with it. So better be safe than sorry and prevent it altogether just by being mindful about how you spend time on PC and how much time you spend on the PC, and when you don't have to, try to actually avoid it. It's going to make you not only a stronger player, but it's always going to make your career more sustainable in the long run if you're going to be playing for, let's say, 10-15 years. This was the last tip, and as I said before, there are more extra tips down in the description below. Just click on my blog link, what am I talking? There's going to be an article about all these things summarized. If you feel like this video gave you something, you can find a little bit more value on that link as well. Yeah, that's it. I wish I knew this when I started gaming and taking it more seriously. This is just being who I needed when I was younger. So I hope some of you, at least one person, get some experience out of this. You will become better at this thing called gaming. See you in the next one.